It's been an incredible week for Indian sports. We celebrated Mirabai Chanu's victory in weightlifting, Sindhu's bronze in badminton, Lavlina's bronze in boxing, Ravi Kumar Dahiya won silver in wrestling, the historic win of Indian men's hockey team, a medal in the Olympics after 41 long years. Bajrang Punia then won a bronze in weightlifting and Neeraj Chopra won a historic gold in javelin. What a week it's been. As I speak to you, India has tripled its Rio tally. It's a marvelous feat. But is it sustainable? India will not be able to maintain an upwards graph at the Olympics unless you and I do our bit. What do I mean by that? I mean you and I need to help build athletes in India. How do we do that? By encouraging budding athletes. Let me ask you a question. How many of you send your children to sports coaching? Or do you prefer sending them to maths coaching instead? For all you know, there's a brilliant athlete in your house, but the little champ is being forced to train for spell B. For all you know, there's a star swimmer in your study room, but she is being made to train for a science Olympiad instead of the Olympics. We grew up with the idea of padhoge, likhoge, banoge nawab, kheloge, kudoge, hoge kharab. But it's time to shed this. Look at these photos. Mirabai Chanu is a nationwide sensation. This is the reception PV Sindhu got on landing in India. This is how India celebrated the hockey team. And this is what's being said about Ravi Kumar Dahiya. The world today celebrates its champions. But if you do not encourage your children to aim for this height, how will India get more champions? Wouldn't it be great to celebrate India's sporting victories more often? Imagine cheering for India at the FIFA World Cup one day. Imagine picking up hundreds of medals at the Olympics. Imagine Indians winning medals in sports like climbing, sailing, skateboarding, mountain biking. Imagine your children, family members and neighbors wearing tri-colored tracks at international games. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay and this is India, a country with a 7,516-kilometer long coastline, long beaches for swimming and sailing, over 400 rivers for rafting and rowing, majestic mountains for skiing, at least 62 natural lakes for kayaking, fields for training, pockets that play fantastic football. This is a country of varied terrain, race, culture and talent. India is a country of nearly 1.4 billion people. How can we not have champions in a pool so large and diverse? Let's look at some history. India won its first Olympic medal in Paris 1900. Norman Pritchard won silver in men's 200 meters and 200 meters hurdles. India has also won medals in wrestling, tennis, weightlifting, shooting, boxing, badminton. So far, India has won 35 medals at the Olympics. Has India's performance been at par with its potential? It hasn't. Why not? Why has India not been able to do justice to its talent? For the longest time, the answer to this question looked like this: the lack of investment, the lack of infrastructure, the lack of incentive, and the obsession with cricket, and all of the above are true. Yes, India does not have enough Olympic-level infrastructure. Yes, India needs to do more compared to other countries. Yes, we are obsessed with cricket a tad bit too much. Yes, India can pump more money into other sports. But India is making amends. It set up an Olympic task force after the Rio Games. The 8-member body was tasked with planning a roadmap improving India's performance in the 2020, 2024 and 2028 Games. The task force submitted its recommendation in 2017. India is working on it now. In the last budget, India allocated more than 2,800 crore rupees or $380 million to sports. In 2021, the allocation looks like this. There's been an 8% slump, but we must keep the pandemic in mind. The country has also introduced the Khelo India program to revive sports. 12 verticals have been identified, like sports for women, improving physical fitness of school children, talent search and development. Under this program, athletes in certain disciplines are eligible for receiving an annual financial assistance of up to 5 lakh rupees for 8 years. So India has made a good start here. But infrastructure, investments and incentive alone cannot make a champion. I'll give you examples. Kenya does not have the greatest of infrastructure, but it has more than 100 Olympic medals. Brazil, 13.5 million people struggle to make ends meet, but the country has produced some of the best footballers, also won 5 football World Cups. Do you know why? Because in Brazil and Kenya, football and running are not a health supplement. They're skills that parents want their children to excel at. Brazil and Kenya look at sports as a discipline, not a hobby. The love for a sport is not hampered by the presence or lack of infrastructure or investment. When it comes to sports, how important are incentives? What kind of difference do they make? Well, look at this chart. This is how much some countries pay their Olympic medalists. If incentives were a big driver, wouldn't Singapore have collected endless golds? $737,000 for a gold medal, and yet this is how many golds Singapore currently has at Tokyo. You see, there's something as important as infrastructure or investment or incentive, and that is culture. It is culture that shapes a person's interest. In India, we have the culture for maths. Indians are so good at math that even Stephen Hawking was a fan. We have a culture for science. Look at the number of Indian scientists worldwide. What about sports? Do we not have a culture for sports? Well, we did once. Indian epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, talk about archery, chariot racing, hunting, wrestling, swimming. They talk about people training in sports. What we need to do is revive it. How do we do that? Well, start early, give more importance to sports at school, ensure that sports teachers are not the most ignored ones during parent-teacher meetings. Ensure we don't drop sports from a child's timetable the moment she enters middle school or high school. If a child is inclined towards sports, make sure she's allowed to train. Give her the facility we can afford. Champions are shaped at a young age. Lavleena took up Muay Thai at the age of 13. She then switched to boxing. It was during a Sports Authority of India trial at a high school that Lavleena was spotted by coach Padum Chandra Bodo. She was just 15. She wouldn't have won a medal for India in Tokyo had she been forced to give up sports for academics. We need to encourage sporting talent in school. We need to encourage college sports because that's where our athletes are exposed to high-level competitions. Take the example of the US. All the men in its Olympics gymnastics team are college gymnasts. 463 out of 613 athletes representing the US in Tokyo have come from the college sports system. That's more than 75% of their squad from college sports. Russia and China too depend heavily on college games for Olympics. India must not lag behind here. It must also ensure that Olympians come back to become qualified coaches because they can train young athletes to perform under immense pressure, prepare them mentally, physically, nutritionally. If this chain from school to coaching is maintained and it is backed by infrastructure, exposure and investment, India will become one of the greatest sporting nations in the world because you see, we do not have a dearth of talent here. And I'm not saying this journey to the top will be easy, it won't. Overtaking the US and China won't happen in a couple of years. Look at where their current Olympic tally is, and look at where India is. It is not an overnight journey to the top, but the journey will be easier if we draw inspiration from success stories elsewhere. Well, here's one. Britain, 1996, it won just one gold medal at the Atlanta Games. So it hurdled back, adopted a no-compromise approach, poured in $460 million, picked sports that Britain has prospects of winning medals in, the likes of cycling, rowing, and prioritized them, and worked on training and coaching Britain's top talents in these sports. Well, 20 years later, Britain finished second in Rio 2016. It took home 27 golds. In Tokyo, India also got its first gold in athletics. We have come a long way. From winning medals only in hockey to now standing on the podium for numerous sports. Look at our Tokyo squad. We have the youngest shooting team, Manu Bhaker, all of 19. Our men's hockey team has 10 Olympic debutants. For the first time, our female hockey team reached the semi-finals. For the first time, India got a gold in track and field. You and I can ensure that this journey is only upwards and onwards. So let's Khelo India.
Gravitas Plus, co-presented by Skoda, made of smart imagination.